Hello everyone. Welcome to DevFest Italia 2020. I hope you all enjoying so far this first virtual DevFest across the globe. And in today's talk, I will talk about accessibility in Android world. So let's get started. First, we will cover about a little bit details about accessibility, and then we will go and see how it's impacting our applications and related to Android, what are the options that we can use to make our apps more accessible? So what is accessibility? It's about making sure like Android users who have some kind of impairments or limited vision or any kind of disability, they can use our application same like as other persons, those who are using our application as a without any kind of health issues or low vision or any kind of disabilities. So it's like providing a more access to people, those who wants to use technology, but they have some kind of disabilities. And we will now see the impact of accessibility if we are like what are the major advantages if we adding support for accessibility in our Android applications. So according to the World Bank, it's a 15% of the world's population. They have some kind of disability, and people with disability, they depends on apps and services. Those are supporting accessibility. So it helps them to communicate, learn, and also stay up to date with the technology. So if they want to use all those technologies that we are using as a normal users, we it's a responsibility as a developers or as a designers to make sure that we are creating a products that are accessible to everyone. And the second is it also improves your app's versatility. It's not just supporting people those who having disability, but it also provides a lot of options how user simple or the normal user who can simply use your application can use it with the various options. So it opens a wide range of options how users can interact with your applications. Like they can use voice controls or they can use focus-based navigation or external devices like a keyboard or a D-pad or touchpad kind of stuff to interact with your application. So these are the two major impacts of enabling accessibility in our Android applications. And we will now see how Android enables it in our in as a framework in Android applications. What are the tools that are helping us to easily understand how our app behaves in accessibility? So one of the main ways is in Android how it provides the accessibility functionality as a framework or as an operating system. It uses the services called the talkback. It's by default enabled and it's by default installed in almost all of the Android devices that are currently available in the market. But if you didn't able to find it, you can simply go to the Play Store and download it from there, and it's freely available for everyone. And you can start playing with it, and even easily you can test your apps, start looking for the issues if your app is already in production to find the accessibility related issues. This is the main service. There are other options, but this is the main like provided by the Android as a operating system as a core feature or core functionality that helps the people those who are having any kind of issues related to the disability or low vision kind of stuff. And that's all about the what tools or what accessibility is all about. Now we will see how we can make our applications accessible, like adding some kind of functionality or like what are the ways we will see what are the options that we have as a developers for ourselves to make our apps more accessible. So there are a few guidelines when we are developing or designing Android applications. So first is the task flows. We need like even if you are integrating new features or you working on improving some existing features of your app, we want some minimal navigation steps. So if there is a transactional kind of process in your app, we need to make sure that it only take a few minutes a few steps rather than like a 10 complicated steps that might get a user frustrated when they try to do some stuff or they simply leave your apps. So we need to find a way like it's well understandable and very in a simple language user can easily navigate through a simple any kind of a flow in your app. And the second is the action target size. So this is the minimum requirement from the accessibility, even in the material design docs they have written. So any clickable action in your applications, let's say buttons or any text links or image buttons, they should have a minimum 48 dips larger so user can easily click on those items. And next is the label user interface controls. There are various controls. Like sometimes we use decorative views. So if there is a logo in the screen or any images, sometimes we don't provide any kind of labels or any kind of information to those related to those views. So when talkback is enabled, it will simply says like it will not speak anything about that element, and user might get confused like which element is currently selected on the screen. So it's a recommendation to use a content description. These are the properties that you can use in your XML files, or you can call the set content description on particular view in from your code base like Java or Kotlin, and then set the content description on that view. So when comes to that particular view, it will speak that information that you have provided in the content description. And next is the enabling the focus-based navigation. This is basically we need to make sure that when user is traversing a layout or traversing or using application using external devices like D-pad or trackballs or keyboards, our app is behaving properly when they use arrow keys to moving between the views. So we should design or we should lay out all the views accordingly. Sometimes we need to customize the navigation, but most of the time how it behaves like as you have written the your XML file like the first text view, the next and or so and so forth. So it will go from first, second, and as you have already written down your views in your layout, but sometimes we need customization and we will see how we can write the custom navigation in next slides. So now we will see some code samples like how we can integrate accessibility related functionality into our applications. So as I mentioned, like we have sometimes we have decorative views. So in my case, this is a sample code for an image button. So I provided the content description. So when talkback is enabled or any accessibility related service is enabled, like screen reader, it comes to the image button, it will speak this string value. Here it's coming from the resources under the strings. I have no description. So it takes the string as a value for this one, this content description, and your accessibility rated tool will speak this information about that particular view. And second is I added two properties. These are basically for text views. Sometimes text views we most of the time use only for providing text information, but sometimes we use text views as a links, like opening some kind of web views or showing user terms and conditions or kind of stuff. So to make it properly focusable using the talkback or any other tool, we add properties like focusable. It works for all the APIs, like from it available, I think, since API 1. And but the next property called screen reader focusable, it's a true or false. It's the same like a focusable, but it's only available from P and higher versions of Android. So that's why I added the tools target API P just to express the warnings during my layout designing. So the first one is available for all the APIs. Second one is for P and higher. And same for this one here, we have a accessibility heading equals to true. It's a providing the spatial information for that particular view that it's behaving like a heading for some next view, some next information. So sometimes we have like a paragraphs and headings. So heading based navigation provides the user easy navigation. So it go through heading by heading. Like after the first heading, it will look for the next one if there is any existed, and otherwise it will be go to the next views. So this is also same like a screen reader flexible. It only available for P and higher APIs. And if you need to add a heading information, then you can use the content description for from your code base, like setting the content description by providing custom string. So that will inform the user that this is a heading in your application. And next, the first example here, this one, this is how you can write the custom navigation. So if I remove the next focus forward from all the views, it will, what the talkback or any other device will do, it will move through like the first text view, then this hello world 2, then 3, and then the image. But right now I customized the only the next focus forward property, but there are some other options like next focus left, right. So when user press the left key or the right, where should it go next? So right now I only added the focus forward. So in this case, I want to move to Hello World 3 rather than going to Hello World 2 first. And from Hello World 3, I said like go to the Hello World 2. And then from there, next focus forward is going to image decorative. So it will go after then it goes to the fourth element in your layout. So this is the one property, but as I mentioned, there are some other properties you can see in your XML files. Just type next and it will show you all the available options, whichever you want, you can use. And same here, in this side, there is a property called a label for. So label for is like, this is we use to combine it. It will, it's like a referencing another elements in your layout. So whenever talkback comes to this view, like a text view username label, it will see that if there is a property existed for it, label for, it will go for that view and it will speak that text view for information for that particular view. So in this case, this username label is going to speak about edit text username entry, and same for the password label, it will combined with the password entry. So whenever your focus is on password entry, it will speak the information about the password label that you are currently on the password entry, and the label is the password. And the next one is, it's a really important thing, it's accessibility live region. So it has three options: assertive, none, or polite. So what happens sometimes, like our layouts, we added custom elements, like as we go we add some, if we want to show some kind of error during let's say login, if password went wrong or something went wrong, we show some custom text view, right? Like hiding and only visible if something went wrong. So in those cases, let's say you are on password and you entered wrong password, so at that time, when we showing this text view, this element, it can be any element, to the screen, and if your talkback is on, the property accessibility live region will tell to the talkback what to do this with this element. So if you set it assertive, it will override or it will take a higher presidency whatever is currently talkback is speaking. So talkback will start speaking about this view which is just added to the layout or just visible to the user. But if you said none, talkback will not doing anything once you traversing your layout, and once you move to the this view, it will only speak at that time. But and the last one is a polite. So what it do is it the talkback will first finish whatever it's right now speaking about, and then it comes to the text, this view which is just set to the visible to the user, it will speak after. So you can set it according to your requirements, like assertive, none, or polite. And the last one is like, sometimes we want to group some elements in our layout. So let's say we are showing some kind of if we have an application which we show like a quantity and next how many quantity like in numbers. So we show like quantity 10. So when talkback is going through our layout, we want to speak those two items together. So it should say like quantity 10 rather than first going to quantity, and then it again needs user to swipe next to see how much quantity it is having. So in this case, we wrap them in the relative layout here, and you just set the screen reader flexible or the flexible true at the parent tag, and all those items that are included in that layout. In this case, they are two text views. So the talkback will talk them together. It will process them as a together because we added the flexible property to their parent tag. So this is how you can group multiple items into a in a single 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 talkback element. So talkback will process them as a one item. So those are the some basic element or tags in XML that you can set into your application. And now we will see how we can test our applications accessibility. So there are basically five or four ways I can say. The first one is manual testing, as I mentioned. Just install the talkback and start testing using like a manual testing. Go through each view or each page of your application. You will see how it behaves using accessibility tools. And then we have analysis tools. The talkback, or so far we have speak a lot about it. The next tool is accessibility scanner. It's a free tool available on the Play Store. You can simply install it and run. When you run your app, you can easily able to figure out run this tool on your application, and it will check the current hierarchy which is visible on the screen. So you just turn on and start recording your session, and it will show you the issues related to current screen. I will show you the demo after how it works. And next is automated tests. So we have, if you're already familiar with how Espresso and RoboElectric work, it's just a few lines of code that will enable accessibility checks in your Espresso test, and you can easily test how your app behaves, and how if there is any issues, you can easily find using those automated tests rather than doing manual testing. It covers a lot of a lot of issues related to accessibility. And the final is the user testing, like getting a feedback from real people, like of hiring or finding people those who have any kind of disabilities. Just hand over your application to them and see how they able to finish a particular flow in your application, and read their mental state and write some kind of notes to figure out how easy for them to use your application. And the last is the pre-launch report. It's on Google Play. So once you submit your app for the production thing, like you submit to the Play console, your app is ready. Before actually hit the market, you Play process your application and generate some reports. Then there is a report related to issues, and under the issues category, there is a report related to accessibility issues. So if you didn't done any testing from your side, like UI testing or automated or manual testing, still at the very end point, you still have some kind of testing done by the Play team, or I can say the Google Play, which will help you to find if there are any critical issues that you might need to fix before actually publishing your app to the public. So this is how you can simply integrate your accessibility checks in your UI tests in Espresso code. So here, this is the code is written in Kotlin. So we write the annotation before class, like it should run before the class, and JVM static, it will tell to the JVM that this method is static, so that JVM can behave it as a static method, same like a Java. And this is the one line code accessibility checks dot enable. So whichever view you are testing, so let's say you have one test which is performing some kind of click action on a one particular button, so it will check only issues related to that button, because we only say accessibility checks dot enable. So it's only checking the views that you are interacting with in your test, not the full layout which is visible to the user. On the other hand, here I set the run checks from root view. So whichever layout is there, or whichever it will not care about which particular view you are interacting with. It will process your full layout and figuring out if there are any accessibility related issues. Your test will fail, and you will see what are the issues in the logs of your test. And also there is another function that you can use with accessibility checks, like suppressing some kind of results. So if there is any text contrast, like the color contrast issue is existing in your app, the accessibility check will also do that, and it will fail your test if there is any issue. So you can pass any kind of matches that you simply want to ignore. So in my case, I set the text contrast view check. So if there is any color contrast issues uh, found related to this ID, you pass the view ID. So in my case, I pass the text to be changed. It can be anything like a login or username. So it will ignore the results related to that particular view. So this is how you simply can integrate your UI test, accessibility testing in your UI tests. So now I can show you some a few code samples and how accessibility scanner works. So as I already installed the accessibility scanner, this blue icon, it will show on the top of your phone screen. So right now, if you want to install, and let's say you don't have installed already, you can just go here and search for accessibility scanner. Yeah. So I already installed, so that's why I see open, but you can simply install. And now I can show you how it works. So let's say I run it. We have two options. Either we can record the screen or we can take a snapshot. So I will take snapshot. So now you see it shows me there are three accessibility related issues, and it gives me four suggestions. So either you can share also using this share tab, and you can see the issues using this little tiny icon next to the suggestions. So first issue, it tells me like there is a text contrast issue here. It says your current contrast ratio is this, but the suggested or the required is like 4.50. And it also shows you what are the colors that you have used, like the foreground and background. And if you see here, this is the issue related to this particular view here. And next is the touch target. It says that the item size is 24 dips. Consider to make it larger, at least like 48 dip. So you get, it's not showing just you the what are the issues. It also provides you some kind of information like how you can fix those issues. And same also there are another issues like text contrast here for the some other views on your layout. So this is how accessibility scanner works to simply figuring out what are the issues in your apps. And now I can show you some code issues. And if you are using Android Studio Canary version, in the Canary channel, there is a 4.2 available right now. You can try to use that. And rather than using the accessibility scanner after developing your screens, you can simply use the accessibility scanner from within your Android Studio while you are developing your UI. So if you see that tiny icon, it says run accessibility scanner. So if I run it currently, because if you see right now, I am in the Android Studio and I'm working on my screen that let's say you come from designer. So I run the accessibility scanner. And now if you can see down here, it shows me there are three warnings and two errors. The touch target size is too small, like 48, and it once you select the particular issue, it will highlight the element related to that issue. So it highlights that tiny button in my screen. So image without content description, so I didn't add any image, so we can simply fix that by adding, you can set it to important for accessibility. This is another property. So if I say no, it will raise that issues from my logs. So now the content description issue is gone because I said this is not going to be important. So when talkback is enabled, it will not process this particular view in your layout. And next is touch target size. Here I said it's a 21, 24 just to show you the demo case, but you can simply fix this by adding, there is a property called a min width and min height, and you can set it to 48 dips, and it will simply make sure that height and width is always set to the, it will not go beyond the 48 dips, but you can simply set its width and height to the wrap content or at least higher than 48 dips. So these are the some properties that we can add into our material, sorry, in the layout files. So now I can show you the accessibility test. So I have written one sample test here. It's a sample UI test, and we can see how it works, like how to enable the UI accessibility checks here. So I simply write one test, like go to that button that we have written here, like this small tiny button, and perform click action. It basically opens the browser. So what I say, like before launching any test, I write the rules like ignore all the issues related to text contrast for that particular given view and run the checks from root. So if there is any issues, this test will fail and we will see what are the issues. So if I run this test now, we will see how it actually shows like how accessibility issues are going to be logged in your logs for that particular given test. So now if you see my test is failing. So if I show you the logs here, so it says that there is a one accessibility error here, and the error is related to that button that I just shows you. So it says like it also provides you the information like minimum touch target size is 48 dips, but actual size is 21, 24. So you can simply go to your test and simply fix it. So now your test is passing. So this is how how easy you can simply integrate your accessibility checks into your test so that you can easily figuring out if there is any issues related to your UI exists in your application. And next thing, what I want to show is like we have a little time. So whenever sometimes we get because right now we are in Android development in a world like we are trying to use some cool designs or cool widgets provided by the material design. So this text basically we are showing that counter. So this counter it has accessibility issues in API version. Right now I'm using 1.00, so it has some issues with the counter. So when talkback is coming to that counter, it's not speaking correctly. It says like character limit is exceeded. So I opened the issue with the material team and they have fixed it in later versions. So right now, if the correct version, like the most recent version is 1.2.1. So whenever you're using new widgets that are introduced by a material design team, before actually start integrating those into your layouts or your applications, just to make sure that they are working with the talkback or any accessibility tool. So just create some kind of samples before actually integrating those into your production apps. So this is all about the accessibility in Android. And thank you everyone. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer those. And I will share slides after. Thank you. I think Michaela, you are on mute.
Okay, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you really much, Nav, for your talk. I have two questions for you. So if you stop share your screen, I will share mine. Okay. So. Okay. Do you see my slides?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have Giovanni Minelli, who asks, what do you think of accessibility in Android versus iOS? There are some points where devs can improve learning from other environments.
Basically, I'm working mostly with Android, so I don't have any experience how accessibility works with iOS. But what I heard about from accessibility point of view from other devs that I'm working with, they are quite they iOS it handles like quite well rather than Android. So, but in Android world, it's improving. So I think yeah, we can learn from other devs or other platforms, but in person, I don't have any experience related to Android yet. Sorry, iOS, like how it behaves, process the accessibility related stuff.
Okay. Yeah. And how Android accessibility feature can integrate the mobile web browsing?
Yeah, so the web views basically Android accessibility, it also following the same guidelines that are available for web browsing, like the WCAG. I didn't remember the correct version, I think 2.1. So when we are launching or when we are using the web views, the accessibility, it behaves the same across the framework. It's not just for our native components of our app. So if the web view is used by our in our applications, the accessibility tools like a talkback, it treat it as like a web browser and process it accordingly. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think if there are any other questions. So I just want to thank you really much for have been here with us, even if it is really early in the morning by you.
Yeah, it's okay.
So really, really thank you. Thank you for joining us. And so for us, have a good lunch. For you, have a good breakfast.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Have a good lunch and
Thank you.
enjoy. Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.